Fantastic. So I am here to discuss the sewer department to release a RFQ for engineering services at the Vosburg Pump Station for mechanical work. So in your packet, you should have some pictures. Hopefully they're in the same order to follow along, but if not, there's not too many. So it's a little background of Vosburg Pump Station down on Vosburg Road. It is the town's largest pump station by far. It is all of 40 years old. Talking to Barry, the electronics were updated at
Around 15 years ago.
around 15 years ago, and we're starting to see some mechanical issues at the pump station. So we start with the photo numbered 1, 2, and 3. Those are our largest pumps. They are in the ground floor, which is about 20 feet below grade. Pump 1 has been, even in my short tenure, we've rebuilt this pump in-house. Pump 2 is brand new in the last 3 years, and Pump 3 is aged.
Pump 3 is what?
It's definitely aged. It's an older pump. The reason we're here is the isolation valves for these pumps are failing and have failed. Not all of them, some of them. Our pump number 1 is full of rags, which is not normally a big deal. Go ahead.
What's an isolation valve?
It stops the flow of anything, in this case sewage, getting past a point.
It's like a gate valve, sort of.
It's like a gate valve.
Okay.
Correct. So our pump number 1 is full of rags, flushable wipes, and so forth. The guys went to pull that off thinking the gate valve had closed. It had not. They pulled the pump and they are showered in sewage. Immediately slammed that back on, and that pump is now out of service. This station routinely runs, all the time on one, routinely runs on 2 pumps. To compound that, our pump number 3, we are waiting for some parts. It is still online because we have to have it online. Its efficiency is probably at 50% or less. So, if you go to the next picture, I try to label a few items. You've got the intake valve. On the left, you have the check valve. And on the right with that arrow, that is the main discharge pipe for this station. All the pumps pump into that, and it forces it north out towards Vosburg Road. The third picture, which shows just a pump, that is our pump number 1. The valve to the lower right, the red handle valve, is the one that's failed. Again, over 40 years old, none of the valves have been replaced.
So that valve makes it so you can work on the pump, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The valves, 2 years ago, we put in the budget to replace some of the valves and check valves. The check valves are obsolete. I cannot get parts for them. And the valves are obsolete. So there is no fixes or repairs for these. Along with these mechanical repairs, replacing all the valves and check valves, one of the other issues is, if you look at your photo with the green pipes, these green pipes enter the discharge pipe just before it leaves the building. These green pipes are now, again, obsolete. They were used in the past to pump chemical into the system. The connection point between the green pipe and the discharge pipe, it's rotting. They are halfway rotted through. For the past year, we have been spraying them with rust inhibitor and galvanized paint. When these rot off, there's no stopping the flow. We have no way of isolating that and stopping that flow. There's no valve between the pipe and those, between the discharge pipe and those green pipes. There's just no way of stopping it. One other area of concern, your last photo of the pipe going through the wall.
That's the discharge pipe?
No, That is a suction pipe.
Suction.
So
It's intake pipe.
it's the intake pipe, exactly. So each of the pumps have an intake pipe from a huge wet well on the other side of the wall.
Okay.
This has been leaking, which is indicative of rot. We were lucky, we were able to inject some expandable epoxy into this as a Band-Aid, stop the leak coming in. Again, just a Band-Aid. So, any questions at that point?
Each one of
On
the
your-
pumps has an intake.
Each one of the pumps has an intake,
Like
each
this
one of the
one.
pumps has an isolation valve, each one of the pumps has a check valve, each one of the pumps has a discharge isolation valve.
So on one side of the valve, what you call it, isolation valve, on one side of that is the pump, and
Correct,
on the other side is the intake, the flow that comes into it,
correct.
and there's no way to turn that off to replace that valve.
Because the gate valve on the intake won't shut down.
Won't shut.
What I'm saying is the valve that needs to be replaced, how do you shut off the flow to that?
Well, that's what we're gonna talk
You have to
about.
bypass pump it.
Well,
There's nothing mechanical there to do that?
no,
Okay.
no. So, that's issue number one. Don't forget issue number two. When these green pipes, and these are halfway rotted through, they're gonna go.
Art, how long ago did you put the epoxy on the intake?
Over the summer.
Was that the first time that had been done, or had been done
Yes.
before that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the issues. Supervisor was down for a tour along with Paul Adams and Patty Cataldi when I took these pictures. So there's absolutely a way to change one valve. Absolutely a way. The piece of apparatus to do it is almost $8,000. That's just for, they put a balloon in, they tap it, they put a balloon in the pipe, stop the flow,
Replace the valve.
replace the valve. That's only for the intake. That's $8,000 just for that piece of equipment. Doesn't include labor, doesn't include anything else. Everything in there is the same vintage. We
Except
could,
number pump 2, right?
number 3. I'm sorry, number 1.
I thought you said number 1 was rebuilt, number 2
Number two is the one that's rebuilt.
was a newer one. No?
Number 2 is new.
Okay.
Number 1 was rebuilt. But
Rebuilt.
number 1 is what's stuffed with rags.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one we can't get to. So, can we replace each of the intake valves? You betcha. We can do that. That doesn't help us with the issue of the leaking check valves that are obsolete and we can't get parts for it.
Right.
We've looked for over 6 months for parts. We can't get them. We can then put these mechanisms in after the discharge valves. Again, you're looking at a minimum of $8,000 a pop. Is there a way to do all these valves and check valves? Yes. That doesn't do anything about these.
Right.
Right.
So,
Now, let me ask you a question, Art.
Yes, sir.
If you got the check valves all in and you can stop the flow, could you not then replace that section of pipe where those two pipes go in?
we can't, because that is, yeah, and sorry I didn't take a better picture. Bill, so this is heading north,
Yeah,
where everything goes through it. So all the pumps are stacked up behind it to the
I
south.
understand that, but
Yeah.
you can't stop the flow into that and bypass pump it for a day to replace that piece of pipe in there?
Well, and that's honestly, really what I want to talk about, is bypass pumping the station, taking these out, making all repairs at one shot. I don't want to touch electronics of anything. I don't want to do anything else. The only thing I would do, again, valves, either see if we can weld these up. If we can leave the pipe in, fantastic, right? We can weld them up if they can do that. If not, put a new spool piece in. I would like to put a flow meter on it. The station has no flow meter, and that will help us when we talk to the county and try to generate more, get some revenue back.
Yes.
I would also look at, the station does have a bypass hydrant out towards the road, except there is no valve to isolate the station.
Jeez.
Thank you. So, so all in all new mechanicals, pumps are good. If they need repair, we can do that in-house. They're good. New valves, new check valves. Do something with these pipes, flow meter. Ideally, put an isolation valve in that station for the future.
I think you need that.
The only wild card, and that's exactly what it is, are these intake
Yeah.
pipes going through the wall.
I was just-
Once they drain that wet well, then we'll truly see the condition of them. That being said, a piece of pipe isn't that expensive to unbolt the flange, hopefully slip a new one through. So, I don't see any reason to touch electronics. That's something we can plan for down the road. I wouldn't do anything else to it. It just updates the mechanicals. One valve has failed, again, they're 40-plus years old. I would hate to see just throwing, okay, go in and replace one valve.
Right.
Well, then call them back, do another one. And this isn't something we can do in-house.
No,
So-
I agree.
So
And
what
just
you
to-
have is you have one pump that is down and can't be repaired because the valve that isolates it is shot
Correct.
and not working. And then you have, on top of that, you have intake pipes. They're coming from the wet well to the pumps. Each pump has one, and those are leaking.
The one has leaked. We've stopped that as a
Yeah,
Band-Aid approach.
Band-Aid.
Yep.
But that needs to be repaired. And the other one is the pipes that charge the system with disinfectant or odor.
Whatever they did back in
Whatever
the
it
day.
was.
Right.
Those are all rotted out, and that section needs to be removed and improved or eliminated. Those things can be eliminated, do you think?
Well,
Or are they in use now?
no, they're not in use.
They're not
We would
in use.
eliminate those pipes. We would hopefully just patch the holes, if not, put a new spool piece in there. Take that piece of pipe out and put a new spool piece in.
So it's not simple, but I mean, it's pretty understandable, all the needs. My question is, how do you bypass that station?
You know, so,
With a
and
big pump.
a big
And a
pump.
big
And this
pipe.
is where,
No, not a
No?
big pipe, but just a big pump.
big
Just a
pump.
big pump?
And this is where, you know, I've been going round and round about this for probably the last month, and trying to think in my head, do we need to bring engineering in this? Don't we? Can I work with this contractor or that contractor and make this happen? And this needs engineering because the amount of flow. The contractors are going to need exactly know what flow, what they need for bypass, and all that. So we need to bring in an engineer for this. For the mechanical part, for the valves, no. But to bypass the station, we need an engineering.
Now, those are force mains that go up Vosburg Hill. Are they 6-inch or 12-inch? What
Oh,
size
bigger
pipe are
than
those?
that. Well, we're coming out at 24.
Yeah.
I think they're 12s.
Yeah,
They're 12, two 12s, right?
2 12s, yep, side by side up the hill.
That are force mains.
Correct,
Okay.
Under pressure.
under pressure.
And so you need a pump,
I put them in. I saw them.
did you?
Yeah.
So you
Really?
need,
At that station? Well, when was that?
I lived right on the corner when they were
70s?
coming right through.
Is it 70s?
Sometime in the 70s, I think.
where are you working for?
I was working for MRB.
MRB or Hershey?
Well, it's Hershey Malone.
Yeah, okay. So you can actually bypass this, we can do that,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that operation. Oh, yeah, yeah. I know they've had a lot of issues when this was built. They had a lot of issues with air in the lines, hammering.
That was part of it.
So there's air releases up, halfway up that hill, which are rotted off.
What?
It was designed for
Though
air
they're rotted
releases
off.
on the pipe.
Yeah.
the force main.
I didn't hear what you said.
They
They're
only
rotted
worked-
off.
Only worked for so long.
The air release
They-
valves in the ground are rotted off.
They were shot.
That's nice.
Because I remember Mike and Dave and that having to do something with this because it was driving the residents crazy with the hammering. You'd get a vibration in the houses from it.
So just to clarify, for everybody, this has nothing to do with the upgrades to our sewage treatment plant. This is strictly collections, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay,
Absolutely correct.
It's maintenance.
yeah.
It is maintenance.
It's maintenance.
Yeah, it's maintenance.
40 years.
So the request is to allow us to,
Bill, you said 70s, now you're pushing 50 years.
Yeah, all
It might
right.
have been 50.
I mean, it's
Trying
2021.
to think how long I've been out of work, retired.
See, Bill, you should have played this when I said, well, where were you working? Well, I was in second grade when I was working on this. That would have been the way to do it.
so I mean, if you think about it that way, I mean, I had estimated it 40 plus, figure 45, 50 years. Those valves, the town has got their money out of those valves,
Oh, yeah.
without a doubt. They were great valves that they put in back then. Unfortunately, my fear is replace one, go to
Might
the
as
next
well.
one, go
No.
to the next
So-
one, go
Absolutely.
Might as well.
I mean,
While you're
yeah.
there.
I had the advantage, so did Paul, that we were out there last Friday with Patty and toured it, and, but the pictures, you did a great job explaining it. And so do you want, if I understand correctly, that we propose a resolution at next week's regular board meeting to go out to RFP for engineering services?
Correct.
Would you be writing that RFP, like the details of it?
I would definitely be writing the scope,
Okay. I mean,
and that allow us to get, their, obviously the engineer's cost to look at this and do their work, which would then drive us into what their engineer's estimate to do this work is.
okay.
So you have valves there that need to be replaced, and there's really no maintenance to those valves.
No,
It's
the
just
only
a valve, and
maintenance
then it
Just
works
open and
until
close
it
them, make sure
doesn't.
They operate.
is exercising them,
Just
exactly.
exercise.
Right.
It works, they work until they don't anymore.
Pretty much. Yeah, and it's not like the guys, went down there once and gave it a shot. We've done everything we could
Yeah.
to, we belted them with a sledgehammer, and it's not moving.
How'd you make out with that ring that you were trying to
So,
make locally?
yeah, so in pump number 3, is having an issue about 2 weeks ago. The guys were able to pull it off, and on the bottom of the impeller, on top of the volute, there are wear rings. They're rings about that diameter. They're actual rings. They're very thin. One of them blown apart and taken the other one with it, pretty much like gouging the rotor in your car brakes. I reached out to the vendor. Each ring was $3,200. So, I was telling Barry earlier, in the last year or so, we've gotten very, very close with one of our employees' fathers. He's a machinist. We're like, okay, we found a used one, took it to him, tried to mic it, built us 2 rings for $400 a piece. We put them in the other day. Unfortunately, they were a little too thick. Not a wasted gamble by any means.
No.
I have now overnighted, second day aired, 2 from the factory. They should be here tomorrow. We'll take those factory rings back to the machinist. He can get the measurements on it. We'll put the new ones from the factory in. We'll get number 3 up and running. And then we will have rings made for number 1 and 2 at a fraction of the cost. I was
Wow.
willing to take that gamble. The gamble worked when we epoxied that pipe for a Band-Aid. I'll gamble $800 over $6,200 or $6,400 all day long.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to work out for us.
Okay.
Nice move, Art.
So, if I understand, resolution next week, Patty knows all about this, so she's not missing anything here tonight. Hopefully the board has enough information that the resolution will have little to no questions next week. It goes out to bid, proposal come back, then the board has to.
It won't go out to bid.
To proposal,
It's an, what I call an RFQ.
yeah,
We'll
Depending on
send
the
it
price
out.
range.
right,
We'll send it out,
yeah,
to the engineering firms that we know
yeah,
we work with. It'll allow us to sort of spread the wealth, see some engineering firms, ones we've worked in the past we feel comfortable with, that we haven't seen in a while,
yeah.
and get some quotes from them.
Okay.
At that point, we'll bring the quotes back to the board. And,
Does
sure.
anybody on the board have any problems with us getting that on the agenda?
Not at all.
next week?
Thank you very much for our great explanation.
All right, thank you, Arthur.
Thank you for your time.